I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, July the 19th, brought to you in part by the Night Latch Group. Are you unhappy using the board to hedge your risk? Look at advantages of gross margin policies that Andy Cunningham can show you there, especially on cattle that are in the feedlot. You can hedge the risk on your feed and your cattle at one time, or LRPs on grazing cattle, or even calves, and even unborn calves at that. But for more information on that, go to nightlatch.net. Proposed changes to the CME. Well, it looks like NCBA and TCFA, which tells them what to do, that's Texas Cattle Feeders Association, has decided that they would like to see some changes to the CME live cattle contract. They want to be able to adjust the daily price limits. Now, I'm not sure. Surely they don't want them to get any more than what they are, or enough to take your head off right now. But they want the levity to be able to adjust those price limits to go more according to what the industry is seeing. They want to make your live cattle 50,000 pound contracts instead of 40,000. And I'll agree, yeah, we need to update these contracts. I mean, they were based on 40,000 pounds because that's what a train car load was. I don't think we've shipped one load of cattle on a train since the 1980s, and that was just on a trial deal there, but it never has really come out to be efficient enough to use. But yeah, that needs to be done, I'm sure, too. But the main thing is they also want to allow the delivery on the CME live cattle contract, delivery of Mexican origin cattle, dairy cross or beef on dairy cattle, and I don't know, it may include Bramers too. Right now your cattle got too much hump, too much Bos Indicus, they can't deliver. Can't deliver any dairy cross cattle, and absolutely cannot deliver any cattle that are of origin somewhere outside of the United States. Texas Cattle Feeders Association wants to be able to deliver those cattle. Well, you get down here in Texas, you know, that's a high percentage of the cattle that are on feed is coon shit, Bramers, dairy cross, and Mexican origin cattle. We got a lot of them. Now, cattle don't have to be any particular quality to deliver. You know, we can deliver the cattle as far as quality, and you know, you can deliver all selects if you want to. They'll just discount them down. That's kind of how they want to do this. Just discount those cattle for dairy cross according to what industry is seeing. Discount any Mexican cattle. The hell of it is, though, if you've got a sweetheart deal in the Texas Panhandle, you're feeding Mexican cattle, you don't have any discount. In fact, you might get a buck up on most of them compared to what the market is, the cash market. So I don't understand how they're going to see that. Really going to pull the covers back on some things, because there's really no discount on Mexican cattle for your big corporate cattle feeding and your packer partners. Now, if you've got a small independent feed yard and you would like to market some cattle of Mexican origin, they'll likely take your head off. But how that balances out, I don't know. But some of the changes that they're wanting to see there probably need to be made. I think a good compromise would be to just change this live cattle contract where we can allow the longs to demand delivery. I keep talking about that. People say, oh my gosh, they would never do that. They would never allow for the longs to demand delivery. Now the short position can tender delivery on there, and the whole contract has scared all the longs off. There's really no advantage to being a long, and the industry itself does not take long positions. So you're you know, completely relying on traders, people from outside the industry, hedge funds and things like that to go long. Well, the more we keep changing this live cattle contract, it just scares all the loans off, especially when we get into the contract month. And that's why I keep saying that it's a mirage when you get there, because when you get there, it just falls away because all the longs are getting out. So even if we're promised a big price, we lose it when we get close up to it because they're all bailing out because they're scared to death of delivery. Now, as many of these regional packers, smaller packers that are slaughtering a fairly significant number of cattle, and people that's got some trade in them, they would like to demand delivery of cattle, especially in the southern plains, and especially when we see these huge gaps, 10, 12 bucks a hundred between what your spot board is and what the market is. So, you know, if like we're trading cattle right now, you know, well, we don't know what the market is in the southern plains because they didn't trade enough cattle last week to trade. But in the northern plains, your market's about 184, 185. Well, if you know, if the board was sitting at 172 or 175, you had a long position. I think I'll take some of those cattle. Bring them to me for that. Bring them to me for that 175 when the market's 185. I'll sell them somewhere. I'll peddle them, and you know, I'm not sure any packer would take them, but you know, I think we need that option in that contract, and I think that would be a good compromise if they're real serious about making those changes, and I know they are, and likely they will get them because Texas Cattle Feeders tells NCBA what to do, NCBA tells everybody else what to do. But let's talk about your reports that are coming out on Friday. Cattle on Feed report's going to come out on Friday, 2 o'clock Central. They got the on-feed numbers pegged for July the 1st, 97.6% of a year ago. So that's lighter. We would expect that. Placements, which is always the big question. Placements in June, the average of the analyst guess is 98.1. The hell of it is, the range of guesses ranges from 96.2 to 102.7. A lot of room for error there, guys. But you know, it seems logical that it would be somewhere near that average. But marketing is going to be down big, and they rarely miss those because USDA pretty much tells us what it's going to be. But they've got that pegged at 95.2. Also, we've got a mid-year cattle inventory report coming out on Friday in conjunction with that cattle on feed report. And we all know that it's going to be lighter. How much is a little bit hard to put our finger on, but all cattle and calves, July the 1st, the analysts have it average a guess of 97.7. The range of guesses from 97.1 to 98.5. It's going to be lighter. This is not that as big a report as the January report. In fact, when they were saying the government was shut down, they didn't even have this report for a few times there, but they brought it back. But it's not usually a major market mover, but if there's a surprise, it could be. But all classes of beef cattle, cows, heifers, calves, were all expected to be down 2 to 3% on this report. Now, I think they could be down more than that. But one that is pegged to be down more than that is beef replacement heifers. They've got those expected to be down 3.6%, and I would totally agree with that. Let's talk about your board. Tuesday, average our August live cattle futures up $1.15 at 181.27. October up $1.30 at 183.55. Back months were all higher, up 30 cents to up $1.15. Feeder cattle all going the other direction. August feeders down $1.25 at 248. September down 142 at 250. And your back months all down from 82 cents to down 127. You think, why is that? Well, your grains were up, and you know, they're usually just on a pulley. Your grain market and your feeder cattle market, especially when we're in the weather market right now in your grains. But the grains have pretty much been higher ever since that market bearish WSDA report, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. What does make some sense is the Ukrainian deal where the Russia was expected to let them export some of their grain there and let them use the shipping points there that are under Russian control. Well, Putin has chicken shitted on that deal, which that's to nobody's surprise. He's a chicken shit. That's why, that would happen. So he's backed out on that deal. He could flip-flop any day. Just depends on what's more advantageous and profitable to himself, I would assume. But December new crop corn responded to it, up 28.5 cents, 534.5. New crop November beans up 17.25, 13.95.25. Kansas City hard red winter wheat for September up 12 cents at 8.27 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade has not gotten going yet on a direct basis. Had a couple loads in Iowa at 184 live, one load in Nebraska at 295 dressed. Not too much of anything. Of course, still nothing in the southern plains. And I was talking to some people about, what are they doing in the southern plains on these formula deals, because normally the base price is the previous week's cash weighted average. Well, they didn't sell enough to meet the minimum in Texas, so they only sold 518 head or something like that, and they need maybe 5,000 on a lot of contracts to establish that price. So they may go back the previous week, which either one's going to be 178. But I said, so I guess if we don't, sell any more cattle in Texas enough to meet that minimum level to make the base price, I guess those contracts will just be paying on 178 base forever. Even if indeed we get the fat cattle market up to $2 a pound, like some people think that it could be on a direct basis, they're still going to be basing theirs off 178, I guess. I don't know. Those formula contracts, they're always in the Packers' favor. I remember whenever we had COVID and they had production slowed, cattle that they had contracted to take, they just didn't take them, and it was no big deal. I guess on short supplies, maybe if some of the feedlots don't have any cattle for them that they are contractually obligated to supply to them, can they just get out of it if they don't have any cattle available there? No finished cattle? I doubt it. But brick and mortar fat cattle auction, the biggest and best one in the country, Stockman's Livestock Market in Yankton, South Dakota, 1,700 in overnight, 2,800 head in total. It wasn't too hot up there, so that wasn't a big issue. But your conventional type cattle selling mostly from 180.5 to 188.5. That was a mixed trend. It was lower on the top end of the spread, higher on the bottom end of the spread, as was your non-implanted cattle. Didn't have enough drug-free cattle to really test the market, but the bulk of the cattle that they get at Yankton are non-implanted. That's the bulk of supply, and they sold from 192 to 195. Same kind of a trend. The tops were lower. We had cattle bring over $2 a pound last week, but we had non-implanted cattle selling as low as the high 180s last week. So narrowed the price spread there a little bit. But Gary Marks did say that there were more cattle selling in the 190s this week than there was last week, and even though the market was uneven, it was a pretty good market, and several cattle in the mix with a Kansas or a Colorado address. Isn't that ridiculous? You got to put that many wheels under some cattle to find some negotiated trade and some price discovery. Let's talk about box beef cutout values. They were mixed again. Choice fell down again. Choice cuts were down 210 at 304.68. Selects up 87 cents at 276.61. Your slaughter 247,000. That's 3,000 less than last week at this point. Same as this point a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Punchy pick contest, guys. We're getting later down here in the week. I mentioned it to you one day last week. We got several punchy picks coming in. But this is a fun contest. You know, something kind of punchy happens during your day. You grab your cell phone, snap a pic of it, send it to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. We'll throw it in the Punchy Pick contest. We pick a winner at the end of every month, and you get the winner gets a great prize package, a bunch of cool stuff from Beaver Feed of Beaver, Oklahoma, Beaver County Stockyards, and then a whole case of Therapies. That's the revolutionary product that calms the cattle down. And take just a minute and listen to this video put together by the guys at Beaver Feed about Therapies.
My biggest account is Jeff Slatton, the owner of Beaver County Stockyards. For a while, we was selling him lots of antibiotics to doctor his cattle with. He was having basically a wreck at times. Therapies comes along, we introduce it, he starts trying it out. Almost instantly, his vet bill reduced drastically, and the only thing that was changed up was Therapies. I've also had other guys, cow-calf guys, this previous fall that tried it. Had one individual out here east of Beaver. First time he's ever tried it. He said he's always weaned his calves. They've bawled. They're right around his house. Can't sleep. This is the first year he's used it. He sent me a video one afternoon. The calves are all at the bunk. They're eating. They're spread out doing what they're supposed to do, and not a sound. So he was sold on it instantly. I've had several other reports of that. Lots of people saying that their cattle they act different. They're calmer, they handle easier, they're at the bunk, they're drinking. If your cattle are doing that, they're gaining, they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction, based on an 800 pound on the average cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states, 240.69. That was up 21 cents, so continuing to gain. Of course, with that live cattle futures higher, that's one of the reasons that it gained on Tuesday. But awfully good price there, working towards 241, and we added higher than that, but that was during the holiday week of the 4th when we just had those big specials. It was about the only test we had, but now we've got more cattle in the mix. Don't forget, here today on Wednesday, Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska is having a huge bred cow special, probably 2,000 fall calving bred cows on offer there. And that's where they make the best cattle in the world, guys. You want to tap into some of those kind of genetics. You've got some grass. Be a good time to get in on them. But check that out on dvauction.com. They're going to start the weigh-ups at 8:30 in the morning here today on Wednesday, and then start the bred cows at 11. Also want to mention our newest broadcaster to join the family is Tri-County Livestock in Motley, Minnesota. This is going to be their first day to broadcast here on Wednesday, and they are offering 15 loads of yearlings right there through the ring in Motley, Minnesota at Tri-County Livestock. Please tune in. If you're interested in those cattle, get approved from the sale barn and be ready to view and bid that sale on dvauction.com. Talk about your big feeder cattle sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard, West Plains, Missouri, 2,000 head through the ring. Another 1,100 head through their in-house video that we talked about on our last visit. Feeders were actually steady to $2 lower. Calves were steady to $5 higher. They had a big spotty rain recently around West Plains there, and the totals ranged from just a trace to as much as 10 inches of rain around there. So muddy conditions, of course it's rocky around there, so they're just making the rocks soft there. But Dan Hill, my buddy, the market reporter there, did note that the extreme hot conditions where these cattle were going has really made your buyers be pretty picky on flesh and on hair. That fescue hair can make those cattle really hot, and if those cattle hadn't slicked off good, they're hard to cool down when you get them where they're going. But he noted that that was something that he noticed there during the sale on Tuesday in West Plains. Talk about some individual quotes all around. How about Kingsville Livestock Auction in Kingsville, Missouri? They sold 204 black heifers weighed 673 for $255 to go to feed. Winter livestock auction in La Junta, Colorado. That's our buddy John Campbell there. He had a good sale and had a lot of big cattle. Don't normally feature big cattle like that at La Junta, but he sold 101 head of 1,018-pound steers. They bring $222.75. That's a big time quote. Most everybody in Winters will be in South Central Kansas next week. They've got all the big specials. They got the Cattle Marketers Hall of Fame special at Pratt. They got the King of the Ring special at Dodge. They got the High Plains Video, and that's all coming up towards the end of next week, guys. So don't miss those sales and get ready for them. How about Fredonia Livestock Auction in Fredonia, Kansas? They had some fancy black steers, home raised off the Coffee Ranch. 124 head of them, weighed 890 pounds, bring $245. And that brings us to our most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday. Your Mackerson, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Atkinson Livestock Market in Atkinson, Nebraska. 71 steers, weighed 834, bring $260. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.